All right, rock stars, welcome to another No Bullshit podcast. Today, I am joined with champion CEO Mark Davies, owner of Davies General Contracting. Welcome, my man. And we got our PFC rockstar coach, Carol Surbey, and to break down how Mark, what we're going to do is we're going to break down how Mark blew past, guys, his Q1 sales targets by not just by a bit, by like 150K. And look, turn this off if this doesn't resonate with you, honestly, because time is very, very valuable. But if it does, stay tuned because we're not just gonna, talk about stories here. We're gonna actually give you guys tangible strategies here. So think about this as you're driving in the truck or what have you. If you've ever, struggled with like confidence in sales, okay, like felt, stuck hearing, the no, not right now, I'm going to move forward with somebody else. Or if you wonder, like, how do you land bigger jobs? Then this one's for you. Okay, then stay tuned in. So Mark used to hesitate, guys, in sales conversations and honestly lacked momentum. Now, that's what we're going to talk about, is how he signed two dream contracts from his 4 to 5 year vision board, crushing things out. And he's been able to run his business remotely, Mexico, right? I mean, you're not there right now, but like been able to keep things going as he's actually taking time for himself. So we are going to dive, guys, right into like the sales leaks he fixed, the mindset shifts that allowed him to, make some significant changes that you guys got to really pay close attention to. That really was a game changer for him. And we're going to talk about the tools of how it made it happen, how Carol, coached him through that. Okay, so you guys are going to get the toolbox, the tickle trunk, so you guys can apply this well. So welcome, Mark, Carol. How you guys doing?
Thanks
Hey,
for having me.
yeah, thanks for having us, Andrew. This is great.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's this topic of sales, especially during what's been going on, with tariffs, potential price increases. Some people have already felt it. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on in North America, Canada, the States, that, there's certain hesitations that are there. So for you to be able to do this, Mark, and with the help of you, Carol, has just been absolutely unbelievable. So with that being said, let's talk about the before. So Mark, what did sales or selling look like before you started getting some help here at PFC with Carol and the team?
They were very unorganized, unprepared. Um, During COVID, because everybody was so busy, oftentimes you could just present over email, send it to them, and you'd get the job.
Mm,
Um, there was no interaction, no sitting down. So we were lucky in that sense to get a bunch of work by simply just giving them a quote. Um,
mm. Order taker, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and Carol, if you look back in the past, like what stood out in your early sessions with Mark? Like what did you see as far as the sales leaks that you spotted, whether it was right away or along the way?
Yeah, so when Mark came, when Mark landed on my desk specifically, he had started to do some things right, which actually really helped leverage his momentum forward. But like he had said, he was used to being the order taker. So, we'll get into some of the tools and stuff we use later. But Mark's success, um, was compounded, and I want to bring this on early in the podcast here, by actually an illness that he suffered. So not only was he used to being just the order taker, but his sales cycle was interrupted by a personal illness. So getting back into that
Wow.
sales cycle with the order taking aspect of it, it was ludicrous. It was hard.
Mhm.
It was difficult. But like I say, he had started to do a few things right. And
Mm.
that's what we started to leverage moving forward as he hit this wall.
Love
Absolutely.
it. Love it. Well, so Mark, tell us, like, do you mind telling us a little bit about that, or like where tell like amplify a little bit about what Carol's saying. Like, what did that
Okay.
look like?
Well, yeah, so she did mention, so the sales cycle got interrupted, and that was an illness I had that took me away from work for a better part of 2 months. So
Right.
no leads, no sales, no nothing for that. And then
Mm.
fast forward 4 months where we were in survival mode of keeping everything that we had already sold afloat. And 4 months later, I worked with Barb and then with Carol, and we were like, wondering why we're not closing anything. Like, what's happening here?
Hmm.
Like, I'm hearing no, like left, right, and center. We're getting underbid, which is fine, not our client. So we really started to dial in filtering fast. So, like, getting rid of these tire kickers, as well as like a
Hmm.
sales process, formalized script, to the point where I'm, practicing everything I'm going to say. And then leading into like the new year, it's like we start to talk about momentum. We start coming up with objections and everything like that. So I'm
Okay, so
walking into,
just pause
yeah.
for a second. Okay, just pause for a second. So I love that, and I know all the listeners are like, tell me more, which is awesome. But I want to like just slow it down a second here. So when you were going through that different, you know, phases of the no factor, like
Mhm.
how did that affect the head? Like, tell me a little bit about what was that like inside your brain when you keep hearing these no's?
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't good at all. We talked about confidence, and at that point, my confidence had been like shattered.
Mm.
And like we talked about, you're sitting in the truck, and you kind of need that next sale. Like we needed it. But then you got to walk into whatever it is, like the next job site or a meeting with your trades or the guys or at home, and like put a smile on and just like go on and pretend like everything's okay.
Do you
When
think people
really,
can, yeah. Do you
when
think people can
really,
sniff it out?
yeah, they can. And looking back, you can see that they could tell. Everyone around you can tell that you're desperate.
What are some of the signs? So picture there's somebody driving in their truck right now. They're sitting actually parked, but they're going to an appointment. Like what would that look like? How would they know and pick that up? And Carol, I want your input on this as well. Like when you guys were discussing, how did that come up where you go from thinking, I think they can pick it up to like, oh, now I'm looking back at this. I I I could tell before they even said no. So
Mhm.
talk to that a little bit, Mark.
Hmm. I guess it's how you probably respond to the questions that they ask, and
Hmm.
you change your, like, we're going to use the term, we're the authority, right? Or we should be. Like, they came to us to help them solve their problem. In those conversations, instead of kind of maybe putting your foot down on some topics here and there, you get a bit of loose on, maybe that'll slide. Do you need a building permit? Not really. But you need a building permit, but you want to get the job, right? Like, hey, I need to get the
Hmm.
job. And maybe they see that as a, wow, this guy's, gonna budge on the building permit comment that he made before, and now he's kind of, he's loosening up to get the work. That would be an example that came up with one
That's
of
a good
mine.
one. That's
Yeah,
a good one.
like
Yeah.
we
Carol,
went against our values of like, hey, you should get a building permit. I said, yeah,
right.
you can save $25,000 if you don't get a building permit, and we can start in 2 weeks because I need the cash flow.
I think you just nailed something that's huge. Okay. So Carol, I want to hear from you. I just want to pause for a second, just say one of the indicators is when you start, breaking your own rules, i.e. your value system.
Mhm.
Okay. So anybody that's here that's listening to this, that's a good indicator. Okay. You might think you're doing that to get the sale. It actually causes the opposite effect. Carol, what did you see? What'd you guys? chat about?
Yeah, so I have to be completely honest when you ask that question. I went back to my contracting days. What did I feel as a concrete contractor in Vancouver, right? And yeah, like for me, it was about how can I manipulate this person, right? To get what I needed. But coming back to Mark, like Mark would show up in our calls and you can see him right now. You look at his face and he's bright and is shiny and his eyes are open and he's sitting there square onto you and he's got a smile on his face. But when he was going through this, physically, Mark was a different person. His head was lower, his eyes were closed, there was no smile, his shoulders were rolled forward, right? That defeatist position. And I don't like you don't have to be a body language expert. People know what that is when they see it,
Yeah.
whether it's conscious or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody listening in that wants to go like deep with this stuff, it's called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Okay. So I'll give you guys an example. Okay. And anybody listening in. So if you want somebody to feel comfortable with you, you want to mimic what they're doing. So if somebody's like this talking to you, say it's a prospect, you want to mimic them as well because there's a natural comfort level. So let's just flip that to you, Mark. When somebody comes in and they're excited about a project, okay, and they look at somebody that's like, yeah, so I'm here to instantly they're spotting. This is survival, guys, by the way. This goes back way back to the old caves, okay, where we're picking up something's off here. Not even a word needs to be spoken, okay? And I'll give you one last example of NLP. If you've ever gone to an event, or if you're about to go to an event, stand off in the distance at the entrance where people are coming in and see if you can pick who's walking in with confidence and who's not walking in with confidence. You don't even need any of this training. You'll be able to pick up. Somebody will walk in and they'll be like, somebody else will walk in and they're like, oh my God, that person's got confidence. Whether their business is succeeding or not, you're going to be more apt to go and talk to somebody that doesn't have problems than you are to somebody that doesn't. It makes sense, right? Okay. So awesome. So what changed then? So let's come back to what you were saying, Mark. What were some of the things that changed?
So during that period, we dove into the filtering fast and the sales process. And what changed was instead of being unprepared and not knowing what the kind of the client was going to say or what I was going to say, I came in fully prepared with this confidence, like you said, smile, shoulders back, eye contact, walking in, shaking the hand like that. Excited to talk renovations with these prospects. And then what changed was, we still got some no's in there, but they were, positive feedback from them about our professionalism, how we showed up and how we detailed things that we did. We were doing this on the other jobs. It just wasn't showing up and, being able to present properly. And then February, and we closed 1, we closed 2, we closed 3, we closed 4, and then we hit like our 3-month target in like 3 to 4 weeks right there. And to kick the year off after hearing, I don't know, 100 no's. Then we heard like 5 in a row. So,
Carol, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, Carol, what were some of the, Mark's highlighted some of these, filter fast and the sales process. What were you, from a coach's perspective, the strategies you were bringing to the table, and why in that order?
Sure. So, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, Mark had already started to do some things right. He had actually tracked his conversions for 2024.
Yes.
So we knew coming into this scenario that he actually tracked them into he actually tracked two different intakes. So quotes that he had delivered by email and quotes that had come in digitally. So we actually had the two different numbers. So we're starting at like a 10-11% conversion rate, which I think you and I both would agree is probably lower than what is optimal. So the first thing that we needed to do is to light a little bit of a fire under his butt was we actually implemented the lead aging tool. So he could see clearly in front of him how much he had in his pipeline, how much he had sitting out there in unclosed, non-closed quotes. Because why are we chasing after all of these new things if we have $300,000 sitting there in quotes that we haven't followed up on, right? The other thing that we jumped on really fast was the win conversion tool. So actually looking at our sales process and what is the conversion rate through each segment of our sales process. And along with that, because the two tools go together, was really the USP decision making matrix. So, really understanding our unique selling proposition, how we show up. Like, let's leverage that, right? As we started to understand that, Mark has identified that we also use the fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations, also known as their secret psychology document, to help him actually create the scripts. And we applied some of the filtering questions, as Mark's already said today. Like, that guy's not my client. Well, like, people listening out there, they're like, well, how does he know that? Because Mark's done the work. He's used the tools and he's done the work, and he's very clear to whom he would like to sell. Right?
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Killer. So Mark, when you hear this being played back, like what Carol's laid out on top of what you've mentioned, what does that have anything to do with being able to improve your confidence before you get a sale? Like how does that help you get more prepared? Like,
I think you said it right there. It's being prepared. It's like
yes.
you you have to come prepared into these sales calls, um, knowing your client, knowing who your ideal client is, um, knowing your pricing as well, and back in there too, and being confident with that, being confident in the product of your work. Um, and then in certain scenarios, when you get into after you present it, is the objections too. Like, we know that the clients are going to say one of probably four things, the objections.
Right.
This is over our budget, like number one. That's like it's guaranteed to have like five, every time someone's going to say that. Or the timeline's too long. Um, so we have that prepared, and we've got a script that comes with this is over our budget, or this is too much, or why is it so expensive? And then the timeline too, we've added another tool in there. Like, I'm bringing a schedule to that sales meeting right there. Oh, this seems like it's so long, like, and so expensive. Okay, like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? You want to go over the schedule with me? Oh, you brought a schedule? Yeah, I brought a schedule. What do you think this is? Like, I'm trying to present you a $250,000 main floor. Like, I want to show you where the money's going. Like, oh, the tile guy's there for 2 weeks. Like, yeah, that's why you're paying that much, because these guys are all individual here. So we're trying to be as prepared as possible. And that's how we show up, not only in the sales process. That's how our production process works too, and then after the close as well too. So how we show up at the start is how we're doing that project, and that's really what we're trying to show our clients right from the get-go.
I remember when Mark showed up and he said, my client said no, and I just walked them through it. right? All the reasons why they said no.
Mhm.
He says he just walked them through it. And Mark, when you showed up prepared, was it easy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much easier.
I
Like
just
just
Mm,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Mark's closing stats, January, 37.5% close rate.
Everybody
February,
listen to that. That's 370% increase.
February, 40% close rate.
Brother, that's awesome.
March 3rd, my notes from March 3rd, we are $150,000 ahead of our Q1 goal.
Mhm.
Okay. So
And let's
it,
not forget,
yep.
in April, he spent 2 weeks in Mexico where he managed his team from Mexico.
How's that possible, Mark?
Being prepared.
Yeah. You know, like seriously, Mark's got if Mark takes off his shirt, Mark's guys, by the way, this guy is in crazy ass shape. Okay. So he's got a tattoo across his back says, be prepared. Right? Look, I want everybody to recognize something, guys. This is the no bullshit podcast. So I want to make sure this isn't bullshit for you. So I'm just want to nip something here. Mark, notice if you guys are watching this, notice Mark's face when he was talking about being prepared. Let's just get really nuts and bolts here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but when somebody now gives you an objection, you almost want them to give you an objection so that you can answer it. Is that right or wrong?
A little bit of it, yes, because you came
Yes,
prepared for it. I mean,
because you came prepared.
ideally they don't have an objection, but that's not the nature
Right,
of this business. There's always going to
right.
be like they there's questions that are going to
Oh,
be asked.
100%. Guys, I will say this, okay? Because like I've been doing this for a long time. Okay. I'm not bad at sales myself. Okay. We teach this. Okay. But Mark's the implementer. Carol's rock star coach. But understand that when he says he's prepared, that means he knows what he's prepared for. Prepared doesn't mean I'm prepared. Prepared means this is my sales cycle. These are the potential steps, not potential. These are the conversion steps for my sales cycle. Okay, so what, Andrew? Okay, well, I'm getting prepared for this step. Oh, my, prospect has been in the hopper for this long. They're at this stage of the sales process. These are the objections that I got to be prepared for this prospect, not just some generalized, oh, I'm going to listen to some Iron Maiden or whatever, AC or whatever, they get jacked up and excited. That's that's just emotional getting excited. We're talking about actually being excited because he knows his cycle. He knows what he's talking about at each step along the way. And Carol and him have worked together to make sure that they're applying all these things. It's not one thing, guys.
Mhm.
Okay. Secret psychology is the fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations at each stage of your prospect's journey. Mark was at, what did you say, Carol? And Mark, like 10, what were you, 11% conversion?
10.84% and
Yeah.
11.76% to 37.5% and 40%.
Guys, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's awesome. So, Mark, okay, like when you look at this process, okay, um, before we wrap this baby up, let's look down the road. Okay, this process has worked for you, and I hear it all the time because most contractors are what? They're where you're at, Mark, and you're moving up what we call the contractor's ladder of success. At some point, you're going to want to hand off certain parts of this process to somebody else, correct?
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about how this supports that progression of it not just being Mark.
It would support it by creating these processes that work with your business. So
Yes.
ideally in a perfect world, this process can be repeated by someone else. You have it so dialed in with scripts and the filtering and the sales process with the different stages of what cycles you have in whatever sales process you have, and being able to teach and then have someone else implement that is where you get to the next step, right?
Totally. Totally. Carol, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so Mark has gone ahead and he's documented it all. Right? So now from a training point of view, if he was to hire a salesperson tomorrow, he could put that salesperson into his process. And as long as that salesperson followed the process, they would have success. Now, for those people listening, I also want to just, when we talk about the fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations, right? It's really about helping us clarify the value that we provide to the client in a way that we might have a list of 8 things, but this client, it's only relevant, only 3 things are relevant, and we can pick and choose pieces. So when we're talking about scripts, these scripts are fluid, right? Based on the values that we have identified that we provide for the client and what that client needs to hear in that moment.
Interesting.
Right? So they're fluid, yes. They're structured, yes. So you can go to neighbors and not have the exact conversation, but you have the framework for the conversation, right? So it's
That's
really
amazing.
exciting when contractors start to identify these. Again, we talked about the known and unspoken, aspects of how we show up, who we are, how we present ourselves, what our values are, what our experience has been. And when we can articulate these clearly, not only from our own point of view as the owner, but being able to pass that experience through the stories onto our salespeople, pass that experience through the work that we've done with these tools onto our sales people, it just it improves their opportunity for success exponentially.
100%. Yeah.
Okay?
Because here's the thing. Like, Mark, when you were working, when you guys, Carol, and you laid out your sales process, you knew where the focus. So the sales process allowed for you to actually apply a process to the process.
Yeah.
Right? So, if something's, Mark, if something starts changing now that you have this, how quick are you going to know at what part in the process do things need to be tweaked? How fast?
Immediately.
Immediately. And where was it at before?
Didn't know.
Right?
Didn't know. Up in the air.
That's why he wasn't closing sales, and that's why he was lacking
That's
confidence,
right.
because he didn't know.
That's right, guys. Because when you don't know, it's hard to get confidence back if you don't know where it is that you got to focus to improve. And if you don't know where it is that you got to improve, then you're not going to know what it is that you've got to change to improve it. So guess what happens? Your confidence sucks and it gets worse and it gets worse. We already talked about this, Mark, right? Let's just look at a trend. Everybody listen to this. Mark, I'm sure you picked it up in Carol. I'll amplify it. When you started losing sales, you started losing more sales. True? Huh, interesting. When you started winning more sales, did you start winning more sales?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did your conversion rate keep going up? Yeah,
Yep.
it did. Guys, that's why this works. Because if you keep repeating what you're doing to get no's, you're going to get more no's. Oh, if Mark keeps focusing on what turns it into a yes and actually improves that, he gets more yeses. And when you bring on a salesperson, if anybody has a sales team, if you do not have a sales process, there is no way in hell that you can train any salesperson, because you're not even going to know what it is you got to train them on, let alone train yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, Mark, what's one thing that you'd say as we wrap this up? Final thoughts. Like, what's one thing that you'd say to contractors who say, man, I hate sales, or, you know, or they start blaming, oh, it's the market, it's this, it's that. What would you say to them? What would be one thing you'd say to them?
Well, sure, you can blame the market or you can blame whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's really on you to go out there and prepare and create these processes and then find these clients. It's your business, right? So I would say dial in your sales processes, get prepared, get ready for the objections, because they're coming.
100%. Isn't that interesting? Because they're coming.
Yeah.
So like
Especially now, right? Like it's not 2022 anymore where everybody and their brother was renovating and um, you couldn't find a contractor to do the work. So if you bid on it, like over a piece of paper or a handwritten quote, you got it. Now you're bidding against, I'm bidding against 3, 4, 5 other contractors who could be very similar to me. And it's how are you differentiating yourself? How are you separating yourself from the competition? What do you do that they don't do? And it starts with small things like I mean, are you emailing your quote? I fucking hope so. Please, if you're bidding against me, I hope you're just emailing your quote over to them because I'm going back. I'm sitting with them on the same side of the table, like Carol said, sitting with them because we're on the same team here. We're not against each other. And then we're
you hear
having a
that? The guys, did you hear that? He's sitting with them on the same side of the table.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not we don't want to sit across. Like we want to sit beside each other and go over it and
It's
like
not
that.
an us versus them.
Yeah, like
So we're in the
we
team
Right.
together.
we want to be on the team and we want to go through the questions. We want to go through line by line item. We want to give them the price. There it is. Sit. Silence. We've had some 5, 10 minutes of no words said after the price gets across or passed over to them. Let them think about it. It's a big decision. It's a huge decision. Like these renovations, some of these are, two, three, four, $500,000 renovations. The last one's like 800,000. I hope you don't have anything to say right off the hop. You got to think about that. So.
See how well everybody he understands his clients. You guys listening to this? So as you're driving in the truck, as you're listening into this, like, you see how articulate he is about understanding and authentically caring for the client to go, yeah, I hope that, of course, this is a big decision. Like, give them time, be on the same side. Guys, all these things make the difference. Carol, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so and Mark and I have coached through all of this, like little subtle things. Like I said to him, sit on the same side of the table as him, right? The opposition is the quote. The opposition is not us, right? The opposition is if this quote is too high, then let us work together versus the quote to get it to a point where it's good for you, right?
Mhm.
We are not the bad guy. And I just want to make sure that we highlight, um, maybe a little bit too soon here, but I just want to make sure that we highlight that Mark had also taken time to create his vision board for his future. And on his vision board, in 4 to 5 years, he wanted to be closing custom homes. Mark, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was we had worked on the vision board earlier in the year. And Carol was like, but you got to figure out where you want to go and let's go 3, 5, 10 years. Like how much money, where do you want to do? How much time do you want to spend in Mexico? Because that's a huge part of why I work so hard is so that I can be
Mm.
out of this country in the winter. And then a goal and a dream of mine and was always to get into the custom home building industry. And we had an opportunity come across our plate earlier in the year, and I hummed and hawed on going for it. And we ended up going for it, and we landed 2 of them. So the 5-year plan is now going to be coming up this year.
Mhm.
Along with we'll still push the renovations because I think there's still a massive.
Clarify what that means to people. I don't think they're going to get what you just said. What
What do you
does
mean
that
push?
mean? No, the 5-year plan, what's that mean? You're hitting your 5-year target
Yeah,
in what period of time?
less than a year.
You guys got that?
Mhm.
Carol, you must be so proud as his coach.
I am so amazingly proud.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And from a coaching perspective, like my personal value set here is it is my goal and my aim to take all of our clients and have them build their business as a tool for them to achieve their vision and their dreams. So it's highly specific. But when you look at your business as the tool for you to achieve what you want to achieve, like Mark wanting to spend, the winters in Mexico as the example, that when we set those 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, even 10 year targets,
Mhm.
every decision we now make in the business does that now align with where Mark wants to be in 5 years?
Yep.
Right?
Completely
So when you
different
take,
decision tree.
yeah,
Completely different.
Mhm.
yeah. So when you take that process and you start to bring in these tools, coming back to the sales process as the example,
Yep.
it's like, is this in alignment? Yes, it
Yep.
is. These things, they exponentially and rapidly come to you because
Yep.
you're prepared for them. You're seeing them. You're creating your business around it, even if it's not here yet. And that's where,
That's so
when we
exciting.
come back to the vision, that's where
Yep.
that is important, right?
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so as we wrap this baby up, I know Mark, you giving some feedback to all those contractors out there that are making excuses, and like you said, if there ever was a time for you guys to work on this stuff and get some help on this stuff, now's the time. Things aren't, like you said, 2022, man. Especially right now, things are changing. Things have already changed. So, Carol, what do you see? What would you say is one of the key things that's holding contractors back in sales that would help the audience listening in?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it already today. Just not understanding that there's steps. Like they
Right.
think that they can just go in and have this conversation. It's not that simple. It
Mhm.
it really isn't. And they also I also hear it. I will I will just take the next job that comes along. Well, you know what? If you do that and it's not the right job, it might bankrupt you. So we better
Mhm.
figure out what the best jobs
Look at
are
Mark.
for
Look at
us.
Mark's response. What do you,
Well,
Mark?
that's
What do you?
that. Well, that's was so we go back to December and January, and those thoughts had crossed my head, and some people that were around me were saying, "You just need to take what you can get, or you need to drop your prices." And fuck that. Like
Right.
we didn't take it, um, because those jobs will bury you, and they stop you from getting the jobs that people want to pay you the money that you're supposed to.
Mhm.
Um, and dropping your prices. No, we did the opposite. We raised our prices because we didn't have like a full grasp of them. We were still trying to figure out, some of the overhead and things like that. And then, some of our expenses
The
went up
pricing
in the new,
calculator. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
some of those
Yep.
things went up in the new year. And so I didn't drop our prices in January. We had to raise them a couple percentage to cover the overhead, to cover insurance went up, the gas went up, whatever. My office space went up like $50 a month and all these things. So yeah, we didn't raise the prices. We didn't drop our prices. We raised them, and then we didn't take the shitty work, and then we got the work that we wanted that was supposed to come in 5 years that came in May 2025.
Way to go. Way to
Well,
go.
I hope everybody hears that.
Yeah.
Instead
Mhm.
of dropping prices, he raised them at a
Mhm.
time where he had no work and he was having a hard time closing leads.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Zero work,
Yep.
nothing.
Yep. So look, guys, as we wrap this up, okay, here's my little thing. Okay. Now, how is it possible that Mark was able to do that? And you guys might be listening and going like, that's such bullshit. I'm different. I'm unique.
No,
Okay.
you're not.
You're not. Okay. Let me just tell you why, high level why. Because there is so much opportunity for you to improve your sales and your conversion rate. It is insane. Why? Because you don't have it broken down. Okay. Because you're not using secret psychology. Okay. Because you're not filtering fast. Because you don't know your pricing. And the list goes on and on and on that we touched on today. When you know those things, the opportunity for improvement is crazy. Imagine one person, just high level, sees their conversion rate. I quoted a job, I lost 90% of them. So my conversion rate is 10%. Now, Mark now looks and goes, I've got 6 steps as an example in my sales process. This step has this conversion rate. This one has this all equaling the same end result of like a 10% conversion. Oh, I'm going to improve this. Imagine having 6 times the areas to improve your sales process versus 1. Who's going to win? It's inevitable. Mark, that's who's going to win. Okay. Because he knows what he's doing, because he's confident in each of those steps. And if something changes, he's not losing confidence because he knows where he's got to focus and improve things. So look at guys, as I wrap this baby up, thank you so much, Mark, okay, and Carol, for being abundant with your mindset of sharing and doing a killer job, Carol, okay, coaching, killer job execution, Mark, okay. So guys, that's a wrap up for today's episode. And I want to thank Mark and Carol for sharing all these insights, doing the hard work. By the way, they've done the hard work that you guys can benefit from decades of the days. No bullshit. Okay. Take the stuff we talked about, apply it. All right. You don't have to wait a year. You don't have to wait 5 years. You can take this stuff and apply it today. Okay. If Mark's story, though, okay, if it at all lit a fire on your ass, okay, if you're tired of like second guessing your sales process, you don't have the confidence, hearing way too many no's versus more yeses, guys, hopefully you know you're not alone. Okay, so that's number one. You don't have to figure all this out on your own. Okay, that's a very costly way of doing it, not just financially, but mentally. Okay, the cost of the people around you because of your stress. People can see it, whether it's your spouse, your kid, not being there for the kids or there for your team or for the clients. So check the links, guys, in the description to apply for a calibration call if you want with me. That's actually me, yes, with me. And how we can help and achieve the same kind of growth that Mark and Carol just shared. And guys, remember this, okay? We drop new episode trading tips uh, every single Thursday. Yeah, that's right. Every Thursday. I just had to think about that. And it's packed with real strategies like this, tools, and other contractors who's transformed their business just like Mark has. Okay. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. And that's it, guys. I'm Andrew Houston. I'll see you on the flip, okay, with some more tips. And we'll catch you guys later. Ciao. If this video resonates with you at all, let's be real. You're working your ass off, but your bank account, it doesn't reflect it, right? Jobs keep piling up, the team's not stepping up, and no matter how many hours you put in, it still feels like you're treading water. Sound familiar? Listen, it doesn't have to be that way. I help contractors just like you take back control, make more money, and finally build a business that doesn't suck up all of your time in your life. And it all starts with a free 20-minute call. That's it. If you're tired of grinding with nothing to show for it, hit the link below, book a call, and let's fix this. Look, one step, that's all it takes sometimes to start turning this around. Let's make it happen.